Good afternoon. And I want to thank the sponsors for this meeting. It's Takeda, and folks have shifted over into their breakout session. And this one is hosted by Thrive RX, Becoming Optum Infusion Pharmacy. And with us today, we have guests, Ellie and Abby Brogan. Now, Ellie was born with Charpel syndrome due to jejunal atresia. Over the years, she's been on TBN, Omegavin, enteral feeds, and she's currently on IV hydration and Gattex. She's now 14. I cannot believe it. I think I've known her since she was 3, maybe, or quite the lady now. She's 14 years old and a freshman in high school. Wow. She's active in the drama club, hopes to be on the tennis team, loves to ski in the winter, go to the beach as much as possible. Me too. Ellie's also honored to be, drum roll please, the 2020 Oley Foundation Child of the Year. I think you'll understand how she earned that as soon as she begins to speak. Now, Abby is Ellie's mom, sitting to her left. Abby and Ellie live just outside of Boston with Ellie's father, Gib, and brother, Will. Abby and Gib have been working with Ellie to start the transition of her infusion Gattex responsibilities and communication with her medical team. So this began over the last few years. So I have some questions. And as we go through the question and answer period, we invite you to consider asking a question. So Abby, can you tell the audience briefly more about your journey when you started working with your daughter to increase her IV medication management skills?
Yeah, so Ellie was, you were right. She's been on and off of different things throughout her life. We were on TPN, then just on IV fluids, then on TPN, then just IV fluids. And through elementary school, we were fine managing everything and kind of thought we were good. And then we got to middle school and we started realizing she's getting older, and right behind middle school is high school and behind high school is college. And I have a good friend who we've been friends with throughout, like right after Ellie was born. Her name's Ann Weaver, and she does great work with transition. And her son is older now as a young adult, but she was an amazing resource for helping me with what needed to be done to transition and kind of
over pharmaceuticals, which I love. Thank you everybody for attending today's session. I am part of Takeda's SBS Charpel syndrome franchise. I'm actually a part of our marketing team. And one of the things that Takeda has decided to focus on this year is raising awareness about short bowel syndrome. As you guys know, it's a pretty rare condition. And often we find that not only when people get this diagnosis, it's the first time they've heard of this condition, but it's also true for a lot of physicians who just don't typically see SBS patients. So as a result of that, something that we launched that's new this year is our Patient SBS Ambassador Program. And Seth, who I'm very excited to introduce to you guys, is a member of that program. And this is his first engagement, as I was telling Roz, speaking on behalf of Takeda. But our goal is generally just to make sure that we're amplifying the voices of people who are living with SBS. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear Seth's story today. So with that, Seth, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Rhea. And okay, so I'm gonna get started. Thanks everyone. This is my first time speaking, so bear with me, but I love Oley and I'm excited to be here. So let's do this. So hi, my name is Seth, and although you probably are not surprised that I'm an extrovert, and it's very easy for me to talk to people, the story I'm about to tell is not an easy story for me to tell at all. And while I am very comfortable speaking, this story it's always hard to tell. So first of all, I'd like to thank Takeda for inviting me to share my story, for caring for someone who lives with short bowel syndrome, or SBS. I've been teaching in Asia for almost a decade when we got the news. My wonderful wife of 4 years, Megan, announced that she was pregnant, and we were so excited. Knowing the teaching situation in Tibet, we knew that we weren't going to be able to stay and have children. So my organization approached me with a new role. I was going to be the country director of Mongolia. So we prayed, said goodbyes to our dear friends, and moved a whole lot of stuff from one cold plateau to an even colder plateau. Originally, we planned on having our baby in Mongolia, but things worked out so that we could actually return to the US to celebrate Christmas with our family and give birth to our daughter. We were hoping that Megan wouldn't have a C-section so that we could get back in time for the annual conference in Thailand. That was our big stressor. Little did we know that that would be the least of our concerns. Megan did end up having a C-section, but it was no big deal. She was fine, and our new daughter, Dottie, was healthy and full of life, wide-eyed and looking the world over. We sent pictures to our families, and we made it official on social media the very next morning. All was well, until it wasn't. Doctors kept taking Dottie back and forth to the neonatal intensive care unit, and it became very evident that something was wrong. She was not maintaining a warm enough body temperature, and she was spitting up just a little bit, and she wasn't pooping or eating. And her skin color was just off. She wasn't.
Oh yeah, and I make my own milk. She's what, 20?
Yeah, she drinks a fair amount of Ellicare every day, so she's in charge of mixing that, kind of mixing it up every morning, and then in the afternoon mixing, and then tracking how much she's drinking through the day.
Right. And how about in the physician's office? Ellie, do they direct the communication to you, or does mom respond, or is it a combination, a little of each?
I think it's a combination. Like when they talk about like stuff that like concerns me directly, like what I'm comfortable with and stuff like that, they talk to me. But if they get like, oh well, like this is gonna happen, or like they start talking about like, I don't know, maybe like they start like getting too sciencey, I'm like, talk to her, she understands this. I'm only 14.
That makes sense. That makes sense. You know, how do you feel about managing your own care? You mentioned comfort level. You seem really comfortable, but really underneath, are you excited? Are you eager to get this moving forward? Nervous, scared? How do you think you describe?
I'm a little nervous because like my goal is to be fully dependent by
Independent.
like independent, not dependent, independent by the time I go to college. And so I'm a little nervous about that, because college is nervous for anyone who doesn't have what I have. But when you have to do your own IV nutrition overnight, it's so nerve-wracking.
But that desire is there to be completely independent. Yeah, that's good. That's good. What advice would you give other kids who haven't started transitioning?
Go one step at a time. Like if you want to become independent, don't take on like half of your don't take on like half of like your IV hydration
Responsibilities.
Don't take on like half your responsibilities. Like I'm pretty sure the first thing I started with was putting the dressing on my G tube. I think that was the very first thing I started with.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start because you were curious about it? Would you advise other kids to just be curious, start being curious? you
Yeah,
know, as a way,
curious.
yeah.
I think I started
And
because like as I got older, I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I started because like as I got older, I wanted a little bit more control over what was happening to me.
that sounds reasonable. What resources or tools do you think have been most helpful? Mom mentioned Ann Weaver, and just wondering.
Yeah, there's so the transition tool that Anne made years ago has now become a big toolkit that Thrive has that's called the Shift Transition Toolkit, and it goes from every stage. And I mean, it's gotten huge now. It's got all sorts of resources and links to things to go to, but that was definitely helpful. And I actually, when you mentioned G-tube dressing, Ellie, it made me remember that Anne actually had me doing stuff like Ellie was on tube feeds when she was like 4 or 5. She was on, or even 3 or 4, she was on tube feeds overnight. And she was hooking herself up and unhooking herself when we were done with the feed. And then she was taking care of her own dressings. And I think that was great, especially with her knowing how to take care of her dressings because her G-tube leaked a little bit occasionally. So if she had the supplies to change her dressing at school, she could just go to the nurse's office, go to the bathroom and change her G-tube dressing instead of kind of ignoring it and letting it get wet and maybe skin getting irritated or any of that stuff. I think it was good for her to be able to learn some of those things because it was directly affecting her. So rather than waiting for an adult to be ready or waiting to be home, she could take that control and do some of that stuff herself.
I started when I was 3.
Yeah, you were unhooking your. I mean,
Way
I
back then.
forgot about that, but yeah, she
Yeah,
was.
I
Doing
used to always want to push the off and on buttons. I used to always want to unhook it before it was ready.
Yeah,
The pushing buttons was so much fun.
The Infinity. I think we would even give her the bag, and she would hook up the thing and put it inside the pump and close the door, and we would watch her making sure she was doing the right buttons.
Infinity pump with the 8 thing that went into that little weird pump thing.
Yeah.
All those things, right?
Yeah,
those-
she did a lot of that stuff, and then and actually on line care, she does turn her at the end of the infusion. She turns her pump off and unhooks her line from her cap, and then for showers, she does do her own waterproofing, and then for swimming too. So we just waterproof her site for if she wants to take a shower and not have a dressing change at the same time. So she's in charge of that too. So that's kind of big. But that also is great because she's had a couple of things with like school had a pool party when the middle school was
No.
5th grade when fifth grade
got out.
5th grade kids were all like the different elementary schools sent all 5th grade kids, they didn't have to go, but they could go to a pool party as kind of a mixer to get ready for middle school. And it was a pool party. And the fact that Ellie could go and waterproof herself and get herself ready meant that she could go and be included and do that stuff. And we had her nurse kind of shout at her, but it gave her allowed her to be a little bit more like everybody else, that she could just step into the bathroom, take care of what she needed to, but still.
I don't think
Okay.
Cindy wasn't there at all.
Oh no, she
When
wasn't.
my
Right. Yeah.
dressing, the waterproofing leaked, and I just texted you.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't there. Yeah, he wasn't there.
I know. Well, I remember those days when I couldn't get anything right either. Okay, Abby, what advice would you give other families?
I would say you can start earlier than you think, and start with like the little things and just getting them involved, telling them what's going on, kind of showing them different pieces. There's things that they can do. You have a ton to do every day with taking care of your child, that your child can help with some of it, depending on, you be the best judge of what they can handle. But we were having Ellie, take what we said, change her G-tube dressing, hook her bag up to the pump. Occasionally she would help us put away supplies, and as we were doing it, we'd kind of talk about why she got all the different things or what they were called, and just kind of increase her familiarity with it. And then I think the biggest step she took with both Gattex this fall, she's her taking over the Gattex. We order it just because the infusion pharmacy we're working with won't let her do it. But for her IV supplies, she took over all of that. So it was a transition where I kind of am watching and making sure she's doing the right thing. But she would make a list of everything we have, make a list of what she thought she needed this week, and then I kind of take a look, and then she'll work with the pharmacy to get that filled. And even like if she makes a mistake, she then will email the pharmacy and say, I'm sorry, I misordered, I need to do this. So she's communicating with the pharmacy, which is actually is a lot to do, but it really helps her become more familiar with what she needs and how much she needs on a regular week and why she needs everything, which it's a big step, and it was a lot of work that I was doing, but now she's doing it. I think it's just, if she gets comfortable with this now, 4 years from now when she goes to college, that's going to be something that's old hat. When she's, going to college is scary enough that she doesn't need to be taking on all this new stuff at that time. So if we can have her transition to as many things as possible in the next 4 years prior to going to college, then all she'll have to do with is going to college.
That's right. And you might incorporate doing your laundry in there too, Abby. What's been the biggest challenge? I know, really, it's not all about the medical stuff. It's laundry and keeping track of your stuff. What's been, now this is for Abby, what's been the biggest challenge raising a child with Charpel syndrome?
I think it was, well, when she was born, we just didn't know that many other people with children with short bowel, and so it's a little isolating. And she's 14 now, so I think in the past 14 years, there's been a lot of things that have developed with support groups. And when first time we went to Oley, there weren't that many children, like young children at Oley. There was just a couple. But it seems like now every time we go to Oley, there's been more and more and more kids, and that you see a lot more younger kids. And I think that's kind of cute, there to be more things for parents of kids with short bowel. And I think Facebook really took off when Ellie was she was probably like 2 or 3 when it really started taking off. But that Facebook has helped people be able to connect with other caregivers and that kind of thing. So I think in the beginning, it was just not knowing that many other people that were like us and having people to talk to and get that support. And I started actually doing something like that for our infusion company, because I knew I needed it, but I couldn't find it. So I liked trying to be that resource for other people. But I think, and then from here, there's not it's every kid with short bowel is so different. So we know other families with kids with short bowel who are, most of them, their children are younger than Ellie, just by a year or 2. But it seems like we're kind of, Ellie's very independent. So she was 8 when she said she wanted to go to sleepaway camp. And we were like, you're 8, you're not going to sleepaway camp. But you can't go to sleepaway camp. Well, then at 9, we had touched base with Hole in the Wall game camp, and they had said, oh, just come to an open house. And I thought, oh, I'll bring her, then she can see how far away it is, and then she'll be scared. Well, she went to Hole in the Wall, and we were done. We were definitely going to Hole in the Wall. She was going to go when she was 9. I think she was still 8. She was going to be 9 in the next, so she was going to be quite young when she was going. And I tried reaching out to friends, and people who had much older kids had gone, but there weren't any other kids that were like just a little bit older than Ellie who we knew who might be going. And so we did know somebody the first year we went who was like 16, I think she was. But from then it was like, then other kids Ellie knew, when we went back in following years, Ellie had friends who went with her or went in addition, but it wasn't, it wasn't, it wasn't something where there wasn't another kid that's exactly Ellie's age or a little bit older that Ellie could or we could talk to those parents. So sometimes it's still a little isolating, but there's
I remember that open house. We went back. I'm like, okay, when can I go?
Yeah, that's I've been to the one up north of Albany, and it's the best feeling in the world for the kids. I mean, I could be with parents that their kids don't even say goodbye. They just run off and get involved. It's so well.
They drop me off. I'm like, okay, bye-bye. I'm here. I'm safe. Now go eat lunch. Bye-bye. I'll see you in a week. Bye-bye.
Ellie, if it's okay with you, I'm going to see if the peds gastroenterologist who asked a question during the main session has joined us, and ask her to put her question out there. And it was about GetX. Are you with us? Well, apparently not. Maybe I'll throw one more. Does anyone else have any questions? Do you want to unmute yourself and just put it out there? Okay, I'm going for it. Do you ever find there are things about you that people misunderstand, Abby?
Things about me that people misunderstand.
Ellie, oh, I'm sorry. I get you too confused.
Wait, what?
Like, you kind of look alike.
I mean, I am her daughter, but
There's things people misunderstand about you.
actually, so sorry. Go ahead. When I go to school, my parents tell my teachers about what I have, but the thing is that sometimes they misinterpret that. And so like when they think like, oh, she has this rare disease, like sometimes like one time there was this homework assignment and my biology teacher said, oh, I can give you an extension over the weekend if you need it because of what you have. And I'm like, it doesn't affect me being able to complete homework. No, thank you. I'm sorry. But like, it's like I feel like sometimes people like misinterpret that, and they like, I don't know, like they kind of like treat it like a little bit more like a big deal, or like how people usually would treat something that they just find out about.
Right.
Like, yes, for me it's kind of like an old hat, but for them it's like, oh, this is different. I need to be more careful of that. And I'm like, you don't really need to. I'm okay. Like,
Do you do you think the timing of when your teacher finds out about your issue, or would be before they get to know you, or maybe a week or so after they know you as Ellie Brogan?
Definitely before they meet. Definitely before they get to know.
Yeah, and that's actually usually because she has a 504, and that enables her to be able to drink in class whenever she needs to, and then she has Charpel, so she also has it in her 504 that she can just get up and go to the bathroom anytime in class. She doesn't have to ask for permission.
Actually, because you put in my 504 with actually quick access to a bathroom. In every single class in high school, I am the desk that is like I'm the first desk in the class.
They've assigned seating in high school just this year, but yeah, I think that's why they get a little nervous, because on paper she sounds scarier than she really is. So we used to have a meeting with her in the spring. We would have a meeting with her current teacher and who was going to be her new teacher, because on paper she looks scary and can be daunting, but we would always have her there as an example, because this bubbly kid who's happy and obviously not made of glass, and that would kind of put things in more perspective.
Wonderful. So we are about to leave in 2 minutes. So I want to thank you both for sharing your insight, struggles with the community. There don't seem to be too many struggles, but the Oley Foundation wishes to thank Thrive RX, Becoming Optum Infusion Pharmacy, for their generous sponsorship of this mini meeting today, and for asking Abby and Ellie to join us. If you're interested in learning about any of the tools and resources mentioned by Abby, you can visit their website at thriverx.diplomat.is/consumer-resources. So, and a link to the website can be found in all of the information promoting this meeting. So thank you, thank you. We couldn't have done it without the company and without the two of you today. So thank you very much. We hope
Thank
you enjoyed.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abby and Ellie. It was great to see you.